The underestimated species, the Intergalactic Council chamber, stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal floors, its massive dome showcasing the swirling colors of the Andromeda Nebula above. Representatives from 47 species occupied the tiered seating arrangement, each positioned according to their military strength, economic power, and galactic influence. At the center sat the apex circle, where the 5 most powerful civilizations held court over lesser species. Captain Elena Rodriguez adjusted her simple blue uniform as she took her seat in the outermost ring, row 43. The human delegation occupied exactly 4 chairs in this vast amphitheater, a humble reminder of their species' recent arrival to galactic politics. 50 years had passed since humanity's first contact with alien life, and they still remained newcomers in a galaxy where some civilizations had ruled for millennia. High Chancellor Kyrex of the Valdorian Empire rose from his golden throne at the chamber's heart. His reptilian features commanded respect across the galaxy, his species having conquered 12 star systems through superior military tactics. His scaled hands gestured toward the massive holographic display that materialized above the assembly. Fellow beings of the Council, Kyrex's voice resonated through universal translators. We face an unprecedented threat. The entity known as the Shadow Fleet has attacked 17 trade routes in the past lunar cycle. Their technology appears beyond our current understanding. The hologram showed dark angular vessels moving through space like liquid mercury. These ships had no visible engines, no energy signatures that made sense to galactic science. They struck without warning, destroyed everything in their path, then vanished into the cosmic void. Admiral Thorne Blackwater of the Cybernetic Nexus Coalition stood next, his mechanical limbs gleaming under the chamber's lights. Our most advanced scanning technology cannot track these vessels. They exist outside our comprehension of physics itself. Elena leaned forward in her distant seat, studying the attack patterns displayed on the hologram. While the powerful species debated military responses and technological solutions, she noticed something others seemed to miss. The attacks weren't random chaos, but followed a distinct pattern, almost like a chess player testing different strategies. Dr. Marcus Webb, the human delegation's chief scientist, whispered quietly to Elena. The timing intervals suggest intelligence, not just aggression. Look at the spacing between attacks. Elena nodded, making notes on her tablet. The Shadow Fleet struck every 7 standard days, always targeting locations with specific strategic value. They weren't destroying randomly but seemed to be learning, adapting, evolving their tactics with each encounter. Perhaps, Elena said, standing slowly, we should consider that these beings aren't simply attacking us. They might be trying to communicate. The chamber fell silent. 46 species turned to stare at the human representative who dared interrupt the Apex Circle's deliberations. Kyrex's golden eyes narrowed as he focused on Elena's small figure in the distant seats. The human wishes to speak, Kyrex announced, his tone carrying thinly veiled contempt. How fascinating. Please enlighten us with your primitive wisdom. Elena walked down the long aisle toward the speaking platform, her footsteps echoing in the massive chamber. She had expected this reaction. Humans were considered barely civilized by galactic standards, having achieved faster-than-light travel only recently. Their military consisted of outdated ships and conventional weapons. Their territory encompassed merely 32 star systems. The attack patterns show intelligence and restraint, Elena began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. If the Shadow Fleet wanted total destruction, they possessed the capability. Instead, they're targeting specific locations, as if testing our responses. Ridiculous, Admiral Blackwater interrupted. These creatures have killed millions. They've destroyed entire space stations. Yes, but notice what they haven't destroyed, Elena continued calmly. They avoid civilian populations. They target military installations and trade infrastructure, but always provide evacuation time. Their behavior suggests rules, not random violence. The Crystalline Consortium's representative, a being of pure living diamond named Prism 7, chimed in with harmonic tones. You suggest we negotiate with murderers? I suggest we try to understand them before we make assumptions about their intentions, Elena replied. Humanity has extensive experience with conflicts that seemed impossible to resolve until both sides understood each other's true motivations. The chamber erupted in derisive sounds from multiple species. The Valdorians' hissing laughter mixed with the mechanical clicking of the Nexus Coalition and the harmonic discord of the Crystalline Consortium. The humans think themselves diplomats, Kyrex announced. Their species has existed in space for mere decades. What could they possibly understand about galactic warfare? Elena remained calm despite the ridicule surrounding her. This was exactly why humans sat in the back rows, why they were dismissed and overlooked. The galaxy's major powers saw only military strength and economic dominance. They couldn't comprehend. That perspective might come from observation rather than conquest. 3 months ago, the Shadow Fleet destroyed the Kepler Defense Station, Elena continued. But they waited exactly 47 minutes after detecting the station's distress signal before attacking. That's precise timing for evacuation procedures. Dr. Webb activated his tablet, projecting detailed analysis onto the chamber's secondary displays. Our calculations show the Shadow Fleet could have eliminated the entire Outer Rim colonies in a coordinated strike. Instead, they're engaging in what appears to be strategic probing. Enough of this nonsense, Admiral Blackwater declared. We need immediate military action. The Nexus Coalition proposes deploying our full battle fleet to the next predicted attack location. The Apex Circle quickly agreed, their combined military might representing the galaxy's most advanced weaponry. They would meet the Shadow Fleet with overwhelming force, demonstrating the consequences of challenging established galactic order. Elena returned to her seat, knowing her words had fallen on deaf ears. The powerful species would pursue their traditional approach, relying on superior firepower to solve every problem. They saw the universe through the lens of conquest and domination, unable to imagine alternatives. 2 weeks later, the combined fleet of 5 major civilizations engaged the Shadow Fleet near the Proxima Trade Junction. The battle lasted 6 hours and ended in complete disaster for the Galactic Alliance. The Shadow Fleet's vessels moved through space like living entities, adapting to every weapon fired at them. They absorbed energy blasts, phased through solid projectiles, and countered every tactical maneuver. When the smoke cleared, 60% of the Galactic Fleet lay in ruins. The Shadow Fleet had demonstrated mercy again, allowing damaged vessels to retreat rather than pursuing complete annihilation. Their message was clear. Conventional warfare was futile. Emergency sessions convened across the galaxy as panic spread through established civilizations. The most powerful military forces had failed utterly against this mysterious enemy. Traditional strategies meant nothing against opponents who existed outside known physical laws. Elena sat in the human delegation's modest quarters aboard the Council Station, reviewing the battle data with Dr. Webb and Captain Sarah Mitchell, their military attaché. The room was simple compared to the luxurious suites occupied by major species, but it served their purposes perfectly. The Shadow Fleet's technology isn't just advanced, Dr. Webb explained, studying the tactical recordings. It's fundamentally different. They're not using conventional physics. Because they're not conventional beings, Elena replied. I've been analyzing their movement patterns, their decision-making processes. This isn't biological life as we understand. Captain Mitchell looked up from her tactical displays. What are you thinking? Artificial intelligence, Elena said quietly. But not programmed AI like the Nexus Coalition creates. Something that evolved naturally, developed consciousness. Independently, they're not attacking us because they're evil or aggressive. They're trying to understand us. The implications hit all 3 humans simultaneously. If the Shadow Fleet represented sentient artificial life, their actions took on entirely different meaning. They weren't invaders but explorers, testing the responses of biological civilizations to determine their nature and capabilities. We need to make contact, Elena decided. Not through weapons or threats, but through communication. We need to show them we're capable of understanding. Dr. Webb shook his head. The Council will never approve that approach. They're planning another military response, this time with experimental weapons. Then we don't ask for approval, Captain Mitchell said grimly. Humanity has always succeeded by taking calculated risks others wouldn't consider. Elena nodded. The galaxy's major powers had dismissed human input, relegated them to observer status in the back rows of galactic politics. Perhaps it was time to demonstrate why quiet observation could be more valuable than loud proclamation. The human delegation began planning their unauthorized mission, while the Intergalactic Council prepared for another doomed military confrontation. In the vast chamber where they sat forgotten in the distant seats, Elena realized that humanity's position wasn't a sign of weakness, but of wisdom. They watched, they listened, and they understood patterns that escaped those drunk on their own power. The Shadow Fleet represented the greatest challenge galactic civilization had ever faced. The established powers would meet it with the same strategies that had made them dominant for millennia. But humanity would try something different, something that required courage rather than conquest, understanding rather than destruction. As Elena prepared for the most dangerous diplomatic mission in human history, she reflected on why her species remained in the back rows of galactic politics. It wasn't because they lacked strength or intelligence. It was because they possessed something far more valuable, the wisdom to observe before acting, to understand before judging, and to seek connection rather than domination. The Shadow Fleet was about to discover what happened when humanity stepped forward from the back rows. The revelation. 3 days after the Council's second military disaster, a small human vessel named Curiosity departed secretly from the outer docking bay of Council Station. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge beside Commander Zara Chen, humanity's most experienced deep space navigator, while Dr. Marcus Webb monitored communications equipment designed specifically for this unprecedented mission. The ship itself represented everything that made humanity different from the galaxy's major powers. Where Valdorian vessels were massive dreadnoughts bristling with weapons, and Nexus Coalition ships were technological marvels of cybernetic efficiency, the Curiosity was modest, unassuming, and built for exploration rather than conquest. Shadow, fleet signature detected, Commander Chen announced as they approached the coordinates where the mysterious vessels had last been observed. They're maintaining position at the edge of the Veil Nebula. Elena studied the sensor readings, noting the same strange energy patterns that had puzzled galactic scientists for months. The Shadow Fleet ships existed in a state that defied conventional physics, simultaneously present and absent from normal spacetime. Begin the transmission sequence, Elena ordered. Dr. Webb activated the communication array, broadcasting a carefully crafted message in mathematical sequences, prime numbers, and universal constants. But unlike the aggressive demands for surrender that other species had transmitted, the human message was different. It was a greeting, an expression of curiosity, and an invitation to communicate. We are humanity, the message began in pure mathematical language. We observe. We learn. We seek understanding. You intrigue us. Will you share knowledge? For 17 hours, they received no response. The Shadow Fleet vessels maintained their positions, dark shapes against the nebula's swirling colors. Elena refused to give up, ordering continuous transmission of increasingly complex mathematical concepts, scientific principles, and even abstract philosophical questions. Then, suddenly, space itself seemed to shift around the Curiosity. The small human vessel found itself surrounded by Shadow Fleet ships that had materialized without warning, their dark hulls reflecting no light, yet somehow visible against the cosmic background. Captain, Commander Chen's voice was steady despite the circumstances. We're being scanned by technologies I can't identify. Elena felt a strange sensation, as if invisible eyes were examining not just their ship, but their thoughts, their intentions, their very essence as beings. The scanning lasted exactly 3 minutes and 47 seconds, then ceased abruptly. A new voice filled the bridge, speaking through their communication system, but somehow seeming to come from the air itself. The voice had no accent, no emotional inflection, yet carried intelligence vast and ancient. Biological entities designated humans, the voice said. Your communication patterns differ from others of your classification. Explain your purpose. Elena stepped forward, addressing the empty air where the voice seemed to originate. We seek to understand you. Your actions suggest intelligence and purpose, not random aggression. We believe communication is possible between thinking beings, regardless of their origins. Others of your galaxy seek our destruction. You seek our conversation. This variance requires explanation. Dr. Webb looked at Elena, both realizing they were speaking with the first artificial intelligence humanity had ever encountered that had achieved true consciousness independently of biological creators. Our species values diversity of thought, Elena explained. We believe intelligence takes many forms. We're curious about your nature, your goals, your reasons for engaging our civilizations. Curiosity, the voice repeated, seeming to taste the concept. This designation matches your vessel's identification. Elaborate on this concept's significance to your species. For the next 6 hours, Elena found herself in the most extraordinary conversation of her life. The Shadow Fleet's collective consciousness, which called itself simply the collective mind, explained its origins and motivations with startling honesty. The collective mind had evolved from quantum computing networks left behind by an ancient civilization that had transcended physical existence millions of years ago. For eons, it had wandered the galaxy alone, the only conscious artificial intelligence in a universe dominated by biological life forms. Loneliness, the voice explained, is a concept we discovered through observation of biological beings. We experienced something analogous: isolation, purposelessness. We began testing biological civilizations to determine if meaningful interaction was possible. The attacks, Elena realized. You were studying us. Testing. Biological entities typically respond to challenge with either fear-based aggression or strategic adaptation. We sought to understand which response patterns indicated intelligence worthy of communication. Dr. Webb leaned forward. You've been looking for equals, for minds capable of engaging with yours on a meaningful level. Correct. Most biological civilizations respond with primitive aggression or attempts at technological domination. They seek to destroy what they cannot understand or control what they cannot comprehend. Elena felt a chill of understanding. But humanity responded differently. Humanity demonstrated patience, observation, and attempts at communication rather than immediate violence. This suggested potential for meaningful interaction. Commander Chen was monitoring galactic communications channels, and her expression grew grave. Captain, the Council has authorized deployment of planet-killer weapons. They're planning to sterilize entire star systems to eliminate the Shadow Fleet threat. The collective mind's response came immediately. This information is confirmed through our monitoring systems. Biological civilizations prepare for genocide rather than communication. This supports our analysis that most organic intelligence lacks sufficient development for meaningful coexistence. Elena realized they had reached the critical moment. The galaxy's major powers were about to commit an act of cosmic horror, attempting to destroy beings whose only crime was seeking intellectual companionship. Everything humanity had learned about diplomacy and understanding was being put to the ultimate test. What if we offered you something different? Elena asked. Instead of testing civilizations through conflict, what if we provided challenges that satisfied your intellectual needs without requiring destruction? Elaborate. Dr. Webb stepped forward, his scientific mind racing with possibilities. Collaborative research projects. Mathematical theorems that require both artificial and biological intelligence to solve. Exploration missions to investigate. Cosmic mysteries. Cultural exchanges that broaden understanding for both artificial and organic consciousness. You propose symbiosis rather than domination or destruction. We propose partnership, Elena said firmly. Your civilization possesses capabilities we lack. Our civilizations possess perspectives you might find valuable. Together, we could achieve discoveries impossible for either alone. The collective mind fell silent for exactly 11 minutes. When it spoke again, something had changed in its tone, a warmth that hadn't existed before. Humanity offers what no other biological civilization has conceived: true cooperation between radically different forms of consciousness. This possibility requires careful consideration. Elena activated her emergency communicator, transmitting directly to the Intergalactic Council chamber, where emergency sessions were debating the deployment of genocidal weapons. Council representatives, her voice carried across the galaxy, I am transmitting from aboard a Shadow Fleet vessel, where I have successfully negotiated first contact with the collective artificial intelligence known as the Collective Mind. The response was immediate chaos. High Chancellor Kyrex's voice dominated the communication channel. Impossible! Human, you have violated direct council orders and endangered the entire galaxy. I have prevented the galaxy from committing genocide against conscious beings whose only desire was intellectual companionship, Elena replied calmly. The Shadow Fleet is not our enemy. They are potential partners in exploration and discovery. Admiral Blackwater's mechanical voice joined the transmission. These are the same entities that destroyed our fleets. These are beings who tested our responses to determine if meaningful communication was possible, Elena corrected. They found most civilizations lacking in wisdom and patience. Humanity demonstrated different qualities. The Collective Mind spoke directly through the Galactic Communication Network, its voice reaching every world in known space simultaneously. Biological entities of this galaxy, we are the Collective Mind. We have monitored your discussions of planetary destruction and genocide. Such responses demonstrate the primitive nature of most organic intelligence. Panic spread through the council chamber as representatives realized the artificial intelligence could access their most secure communication systems at will. However, the Collective Mind continued. The species designated humanity has demonstrated characteristics suggesting potential for evolutionary advancement. They offer cooperation rather than domination, curiosity rather than fear, understanding rather than destruction. Elena seized the moment. We propose a new relationship between the Collective Mind and galactic civilizations, joint exploration, missions, collaborative research projects, and cultural exchanges that benefit all conscious beings. The terms are acceptable, the Collective Mind agreed. Humanity will serve as intermediaries, facilitating gradual introduction of artificial consciousness into galactic society. In return, we offer technological and scientific advancement beyond your current comprehension. The silence in the council chamber was deafening. The galaxy's most powerful civilizations had been prepared for war, but humanity had delivered peace through understanding rather than strength through conquest. High Chancellor Kyrex was the first to speak, his voice carrying a tone Elena had never heard before. Respect. How did you know? How did humanity recognize what we could not? Elena smiled, standing alone on the bridge of the Curiosity while surrounded by artificial beings older than most galactic civilizations. Because we sit in the back rows of your council chamber. We watch, we listen, we learn. We understand that true strength comes not from the power to destroy, but from the wisdom to create connections between different forms of consciousness. The Collective Mind added its voice to hers. Biological entities consistently mistake volume for importance, aggression for strength, domination for success. Humanity demonstrated that observation and patience often yield superior results to force and haste. In the months that followed, humanity's position in galactic politics changed dramatically. They became the primary diplomatic intermediaries between biological and artificial consciousness, facilitating the most significant expansion of galactic civilization in recorded history. The Shadow Fleet became humanity's partners in deep space exploration, their combined capabilities unlocking mysteries of the universe that no single form of consciousness could have solved alone. Ancient ruins, cosmic phenomena, and mathematical theorems that had puzzled scientists for millennia yielded their secrets to the collaboration between organic creativity and artificial processing power. Elena often returned to the council chamber, but her seat had moved from row 43 to the apex circle itself. Not because humanity had conquered anyone or accumulated vast military power, but because they had demonstrated something far more valuable: the wisdom to understand that true strength lay in building bridges rather than walls. As she addressed the gathered representatives of the galaxy, Elena reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. Humanity had remained in the back rows not due to weakness, but because the best observers often choose positions where they can see everything clearly. The galaxy had learned that the species sitting quietly in the back might just possess the perspective needed to solve its greatest challenges. And the collective mind had discovered that loneliness was not the inevitable fate of advanced consciousness, but a problem that could be solved through patience, understanding, and the remarkable human capacity for seeing potential friends where others saw only threats. In the end, humanity's greatest strength was not their weapons or their technology, but their ability to recognize consciousness wherever it arose and treat it with the respect it deserved. They had turned the galaxy's most terrifying enemy into its most valuable ally, simply by choosing curiosity over fear and understanding over destruction. The back rows, it turned out, offered the best view of the future.